Hello class, welcome back to week 2 of our cinema history class. Hope you enjoyed With Honors. It's one of my favorite films and gets us kind of settled into the pattern of what we're doing of a film a week and a reading a week. This week we'll be moving on to reading 2, which will take us through the 1920s. So make sure you give that a good read on reading 2, download it, read it, and then take the quiz over that reading. We are going to mix things up a little bit this week as far as the films go. And I want to have a serious conversation with you about why we're doing the films a little different this week. Birth of a Nation is one of the films that we're going to be watching, but we're not going to watch the whole film, and I want to explain to you why. Birth of a Nation came out in 1915 and was created by D.W. Griffith. It was his homage pretty much to his father, who was a colonel in the Confederate Army. His father died when he was 10 years old, and I'm going to insert a picture here so you can see what the movie poster looked like. Now that you've seen the movie poster, you can see why I'm a little bit wary of showing this film. Because yes, this does show the history of the Ku Klux Klan. And I know some of you are probably shocked at this moment. Why are we watching this film? This film is going to be racist. And yes, this film is going to be racist, and that's why we're not going to watch the whole film. Because he wrote it, and it does show the history of the Ku Klux Klan. But there are reasons why we do. The first reason is this is the first major motion picture that was created. It was the first blockbuster that was created. And so we watch for a couple of reasons. We watch to see how the film industry had advanced to this point. There were several technical things that D.W. Griffith did in it. He created some different ways of doing the shots that were quite advanced for the time. He also made transitions that were very different for the time, and also his storytelling was pretty advanced for the time. Now, I had a very interesting experience with this film by watching another film. I went and saw BlacKkKlansman by Spike Lee, which I highly recommend for everyone to see. And if you don't know what that story is, it's about a African American who infiltrated the Ku Klux Klan. And as I was watching, at the induction of the members of the Ku Klux Klan, they showed this film. And it kind of gave me a new perspective on it, and I watched as they cheered through the parts that we don't watch. And it gave me a realization of how people celebrate this film. And we're not watching this film to celebrate it by any means. We're watching this film to see how film was done in 1915. This is not to celebrate D.W. Griffith. This is not to celebrate his ideals in any way. This is simply to see how film was done at this time. The only requirement in watching this film is to watch the first 20 minutes of it. You will see some things that are not quite as disturbing as if you watch the entire film, but you will see some white people in blackface, which at the time was acceptable, and now we know is not acceptable. You will see when they go to the slave quarters, how the slaves all seem very happy. That was not the case. In this film, one of his goals was to show that slavery was benign and not a bad thing, which we know is not the truth. And so I wanted to make that point. And I do want you to know, as my students, that I do believe that Black Lives Matter. And that I'm not showing this for any other reason in that I want you to see how film was done in 1915. And when you stop at about 20 minutes, we don't see the storyline that continues and see the things that are even more and more not overtly racist, but specifically racist about this film. I do want to say that during the time of this film that the NAACP had recently come about, and they did protest the film, and they did have it banned from different cities, which I thought was good for them at that time, that they did rise up, and it's one of the first things that they did rise up against, and so and began to show the power of that organization. So I was very glad in research to find that out. But anyway, I want to be totally transparent on this film and totally transparent about this, because I think one of the reasons why we still deal with racism today is that we don't talk about it. We still haven't had these tough conversations, and so I'm willing to have this conversation, and I don't want to mealy mouth around it. I want to be honest with you, and I want to tell you straight up, this is why we're doing it. There is no agenda other than to see the film and see the techniques that were used, and then to get out. So anyway, if you would like to discuss this with me further, I'm more than open. You have the ways to contact me through the syllabus and on Canvas. So anyway, that's that. Now, moving onward to the other film that we are watching, because you're only going to watch, again, you're only watching the first 20 minutes. If you want to sit there and watch the whole 3.5 hours of Birth of a Nation, that's up to you. I'd rather not, again. So anyway, the other film that we're going to be watching is Nosferatu, which is the first telling of the story of Dracula. Now, they didn't call it Dracula because of copyright reasons at the time, but it's called Nosferatu, and it's a really great telling of it. Both of these are silent pictures. I haven't mentioned that before, so you do have to read what they're saying. It bounces back and forth. They do have some really neat special effects in Nosferatu that they use. It's a fun story. I have had students that say it scared them. I don't think it's scary, but it is a lot of fun. You will have to take a quiz. The quiz includes questions from the first 20 minutes of Birth of a Nation, and it includes questions from Nosferatu. But they're both fun films. I hope you enjoy Nosferatu. I don't think you'll enjoy Birth of a Nation, but at least you'll see the techniques that were used. And you can kind of see the transition from 1915 to 1922, those 7 years that were there. I can tell you these are the only two experiences that we'll have with silent films. Next week we'll get to the talkies, so you don't have to worry about that. But anyway, like I said, I wanted to be totally upfront and honest with you about this week's films that we're doing, and we will see you next week. Have any questions, don't hesitate to contact me. Have a great week.